Hi, I'm Joe from Joe's Country Junction. Welcome to my home today. I am going to be filming a Flosstube video for you, and I'm in my dining room and I'm sitting in front of my sampler wall. I am finally able to probably say that it's getting to be a sampler wall. I started stitching in 2019. I had been a stitcher when I was a kid. And into early momhood. But I kind of gave it up and I went the sewing route and became a quilter. And then now I am stitching a lot more again, which I'm really excited about. I have lots of good things to share with you today. I have some finishes. I pulled out my fall pieces that I've previously stitched, and I thought I would share those with you. But first, let's get to the things that I recently finished. And so first up, I think I talked to you about this last time when I did Flosstube. I finished my box. This is Be Thankful by With Thy Needle and Thread. And this was a box that I got from Goodwill. And it opens like this. And I got it for $2 at Goodwill. And I'm gonna show you how I ended up making a decision on how to attach the top. I have noticed that Brenda Gervais has designed a second one, and it is winter themed. So I'm kind of thinking that she's going to be having a seasonal. Maybe there'll be a spring one, maybe there'll be a summer one. So I wanted to be able to detach the top and change it out and put the other piece in. So I ended up finding these magnets on Amazon, and I'll try to remember to put a link below for them. And they are like super, super strong. They're so strong that I have one magnet on this side, on the back side of this, and I have another magnet on the inside, and they are able to magnetize between that thick cover. And so that's the two magnets that are holding it in place. I didn't do the washer system because it was making it really, really thick on the top, and I didn't like that. And this is kind of a better look for me, or a better feel for me, that it's not so raised between the box and the stitched piece. So I love those magnets. I think they're not the cheapest thing in the world. I think they were like $1 a piece. About right around there, maybe 75 cents a piece it figured out to be on Amazon. And so I'm just gonna go with it, and would only need 5 of them for the entire series if that's what happened, because I would need one on each side of the top piece, and I would only need one for the back, so that comes up with 5. But I just love this, and I love that it was a Goodwill box, and I love that it was only $2, and you can see that it used to look like a book. I put this piece of ribbon here just because it helped it seem not so, that the shapes weren't, yes, I know they're both rectangles, but it wasn't equal on the top and bottom. I think this just kind of made it fill in a little bit, and I liked that look. So that was my finish of that. I'm so glad that I was able to decide on what to do with that. I hate when I do something and I can't figure out how I want to finish it, and then it just sits and languishes. The other thing that I finished stitching was also a Brenda Gervais piece, and I'm gonna have trouble with glare. So let me see if I could, get this. Maybe I'm gonna have to do it like this. This is Redbird Sampler, and I did this as a stitch along with some of my blog readers. If you are unfamiliar, I have a blog at joescountryjunction.com. And it's kind of about quilting, kind of about family, and kind of about cross stitch. So there I have a lot of things. Oh, there's recipes and book reviews and all sorts of things like that too, but primarily quilting, family, cross stitch kind of covers it. And I'm very pleased with this. We did a stitch along through my blog. I think we stitched 3 different things this year, and had a lot of fun stitching along with people. The focus of that was to try to get new stitchers to start stitching. There are so many people that are around my age that stitched when they were a young mom or a teen, and then are now coming back to cross stitch. And so this is one of the pieces I picked, because as I was doing it, I tried to pick an easy piece, and it just so happens I have that piece here. We picked, this was the first piece that we stitched. This was the Blessed Stitch Along. And I finished, this is designed by Waxing Moon. And I have some, it's velvet on the back. I got that from the thrift store. I've got a little charm that says 2022. And I finished it in this long, skinny, narrow way. Nothing too fancy. There's a little leaf and a little gourd bead or gourd pin right here with a little just tiny bow. Nothing too fancy at all. I'm not one that likes things super frilly or super bowy. So anyway, this was the first thing that we stitched. Then we stitched a small Redbird sampler that's up right there. Right there, that piece we stitched next. Oh, I've got it there. That piece right there with that little pillow we stitched next. And then we moved on and did something harder, and that was this Redbird sampler. Admittedly, when I first started this, I was like, oh, I hate these colors. Oh, I hate these colors. These colors are just way too bright for me. And then I just kind of went with it. And as I got stitching and did more, it just continued to look better and better, and I felt better about it as I went. I think I started stitching on the bottom and work my way up. And the reason I did that is because this gave me a base and something to guide my stitches to. I don't like starting at the top and like this is random and then have to stitch down and stitch a flower from the top part down to the bottom. I love stitching the vase and then going and stitching the flowers. And so I was really happy with this. This is stitched on 40 count, Shrekie's Tan by Needle Bling Designs. I loved that linen. I really, really love that linen. I've heard a lot of people had used it. And so when I was at the retreat I hosted in at the Stitchery Nook in Osage, Iowa, when we were there, they happened to have some of Shrekie's Tan. So I just bought some and I ended up just really loving it. I bought like a half yard cut, so I've got lots more that I can use, and I'm so happy about that. The color, I like things old looking, and this was a good old looking linen without tons of modeling, but some modeling. And that's kind of what I like best. This is a thrift store frame, and it just happened to be this exact size. I've learned how to cut my frames down using the chop saw, but this one happened to be the perfect size. And so I was just thrilled that I liked the frame and I liked the look and how it would look in the frame. If I had to do it like my way perfectly, I maybe would have made it just maybe 1/4 of an inch shorter, but it wasn't enough one way or the other to give me pause. On the back, I put these photo envelopes. I got those off Amazon, and then I record who designed it, when I stitched it, and anything that I would like to think about or make memorable about the piece. Like this one, it says that it was a stitch along, and on the back side of the card, I wrote that I was unsure about the colors for a long time and finally ended up loving the colors. So that was another finish that I had. I think I had those two finishes, and so now I think I'll show you a couple of my previous finishes. I showed you my Blessed, this long narrow pillow, and I stuffed with a combination of polyfill and crushed walnut shells, or lizard litter, whatever you want to call it. This one was a freebie by the Stitcher Hood. I really love this one. I did change this bird, and I changed the coloring. And so this bird I just got out of the Brenda Keyes Ultimate book that has all the motifs in it. The other bird that was originally there was really squatty, and I just wanted mine to look more like a blackbird from like Blackbird Designs would have designed it. So I love this one, a simple finish, just a little bow. The back is like this. So that one's out. I have this one out. This one was stitched on 40 count, I think just on Vintage Country Mocha. And this one I stitched before I knew how to stitch on 40 count, so this is probably on 32 count. And Grateful, Thankful, Blessed. This was a Lizzie Kate pattern. For this one, I just picked some buttons that matched these leaves down here and did a little pillow finish like this. I tend to leave an opening down here, turn mine right side out, stuff them, and then sew this shut. I don't do the slit in the back like a lot of people do. And this one was also, I think, on 32 count linen. This is probably about as prissy or frilly as I get when I do finishes. This is a Bent Creek. This board came from Hobby Lobby last year or the year before. And this is just a ribbon from Hobby Lobby. But that's really about the limit on the frilliness that I get. This was fine, and I'm perfectly happy with it. It won't change it up, but that's as far as frilly as I go. Yep. I'm a pretty simple girl. What can I say? So why don't I tell you a little story? Because I have this beautiful piece sitting right here next to me, and I would love to be so excited and show it off for you, but I can't, because it's still not completely finished. I stitched the Floral Motifs Sampler by the Scarlet House. I started that in December of last year, and I stitched into January. I have thyroid cancer, and during my treatment, I was on oral chemo, and then I took radioactive iodine in January. And through that process, I had decided that I was going to stitch Floral Motif Sampler, and I was going to stitch 1 flower a day. And that's what I did. A couple days, I may have missed a day and then stitched 2 flowers the next day. And some flowers were like really big, like this one, and I didn't stitch. It took me more than an evening to stitch that one. Well, I took this originally to a framer, and I took it there in January, and in July, I still hadn't heard anything. So I contacted them and I asked if they knew anything of the status of my piece. And they told me, oh my goodness, you picked a frame that is on back order and the supply chain thing, and we're not able to get that frame. You can pick a new frame if you want. And I was just like, no, I think I'm gonna frame it myself. Because by then I was starting to use the chop saw and starting to be able to frame my own things. And so I decided I would just take it home and I'd do it myself. So I ended up looking at the thrift store for a frame, and I just could not find one. I just didn't find anything that like sparked or that I really think made the piece shine. So I ended up deciding that I would go to Hobby Lobby and see if they had a frame. And so I went to Hobby Lobby and I picked out a frame, and on September 30th was the date I got that it was supposed to be done or that they'd call me. And so I got a call on October 2nd, and they called me and they said they were very sorry, but something had happened and the person that ordered the frame measured wrong, and they would get back to me. Whoops, sorry for the break. My foster dog, who is going to end up being my permanent dog, just got spayed yesterday, and she was doing a lot of licking on her incision, and she's not supposed to do that. We're going to try to keep her to not have a cone, but if she keeps this up, she just might have to have a cone. So we'll see how that goes. Excuse me. So anyway, back to my Hobby Lobby story. I went there, picked out a frame. They had called me. They told me the frame was in, and they told me that the person who measured wrong, because the frame that I picked had a fillet in it, so the measuring's a little bit different. They told me if I didn't want the fillet, that I could still use the frame and the frame would fit, but I really wanted the fillet. So if you're unfamiliar, the fillet is this little narrow section right here, and this is the frame. So I could have had it framed without this little piece, but I really think that little piece just looked awesome. So I wanted to keep that little piece. It was still in my price range of what I was expecting to spend. And so I just decided, no, I'd wait a little longer. So they reordered the frame. The frame came in. They called me and said it was in. So I drove down there to get it. Well, we live in Northeast Iowa, and Hobby Lobby is an hour away. So I didn't want to, that's why I don't normally take things there, because it's an hour there, hour back to drop it off, and it's hour there, hour back to pick it up. And you know, that hour here and that hour there are hours that I could be stitching instead, which I'd much rather be doing. So anyway, I went to pick it up, and I've heard stories of people loving finishes from Hobby Lobby, and I've heard people being disappointed with finishes from Hobby Lobby. Well, I can't talk. Anyway, they always say it just depends on who's finishing their product. So I decided that I would really look it over before I left, because again, we live an hour away. So I did that, and I initially looked at it at the back counter. And when I looked at it at the back counter, I asked the lady to take it out of the plastic because I wanted to make sure that it was laced even and it looked good. And so I looked at it and I thought it looked okay. And then I got it up to the counter, and previously I had looked at it from head on like this. And then when I was at the counter, it was laying like this with the top side up. And there I could see that it was indeed not laced well. You can see here, there's only a stitch or two showing. And over here, there's like 4 stitches showing. And so I decided that I wasn't happy with that. So I went back and talked to them at Framing, and Framing said, well, they'd redo it for me. And then I said, how long would that take? Because I was going to be in town for a little bit. She goes, oh, it'd take at least 2 days. And I was like, okay, I don't want to wait, because then I have to come down again, the hour drive down there, the hour drive back. And so I just said, well, if I take it like this, will you offer me a discount? And they said they would. And so they took like $25 off. So now I have it home. Now it's in plastic wrap. Now I don't want to hang it on my wall as it is. So now I have to relace it, which I'm totally fine with. I haven't taken it apart yet to see if I can just manipulate it with my fingers one way or the other, or if I have to redo all of the lacing or how they do it. So we'll see what happens. But right now it's incomplete finish. But there is good news and hope, because I love the frame. I think the frame's awesome for it. And so that makes me a little more excited to work on it a little more again. So that's the story with that, and that's where I'm at with that. Last time I was with you, I showed you my All Creatures Great and Small, and I told you that I had finished stitching that piece. I have my frame cut. I have everything to go, and I need to lace that as well, but I haven't had a chance to get to that. I've had just super busy family time, and I love family time, so that's always my priority. And I got a foster dog because I do foster care for an animal rescue in my area. And it turns out the foster dog that I got this time, I'm keeping. She's a 5-month-old Aussie Doodle, and I never thought I'd want a Aussie Doodle. I typically don't like dogs with long hair. I typically don't like black dogs. I usually don't like dogs that need to be groomed. And she's all of those things, but she is just a calm, wonderful soul. And I'm so happy that she came into my life, and I will be adopting her. And I'm excited about that. But also on Monday, I'm filming this on Friday. On Monday, I'm getting 2 more foster puppies. So I'm excited about that as well. But it's going to be a little chaotic and a little busy, because all of those little pups just steal into my stitching time. But they're so warm and cuddly, and they just make me feel like a kid when I'm around puppies. So I'm totally great with giving up some stitching time for some puppies. So what else do I have to share with you today? I have some things from my Deborah Harry bag. If you haven't gotten a bag from Deborah Harry, you're missing out, because her bags are just absolutely the best. She takes old linens, and then she takes old linens and she makes them into project bags. And I just love them. They have nice pockets inside, which I use all the time, and they're a nice big size. She's got different sizes, and I'm always looking at her bags. You can check her out. I think the best way to reach her would be through Facebook. She always shows the bags that she's going to be having for sale. And Facebook, she's Deborah Harry, Deborah, Deborah Harry. And so you can check her bags out there. But this is my seasonal bag that I always have my seasonal stitches in. And in there I have this. After I finished up my be thankful that I showed you that I finished on the box. Then I wanted to stitch something else that's small. I usually keep a big piece and a small piece on the go. So I usually have stitching about 2 things at a time, and I really like doing that. And so this is by Heart and Hand, and this was a quick fun stitch because it's all one color. And I used Raven is the color I used. I'm not sure. I think that's a Gast or a Gentle Arts. And so here, this is all finished. This is on Vintage Country Mocha. I had a sweet blog reader send me a fat quarter of linen, and slowly I've been getting pieces stitched from it. I don't cut anything off the piece of linen. You can see it's kind of wonky until I have the piece finished, and I already have something in mind that will go in this section right here. I just kind of find something that will fit, and it's been kind of a fun kind of, I don't know, kind of like doing a Sudoku or a Tetris puzzle is what I'm going to do. So this one needs to be finished, and I probably would have had it finished sooner, but I wanted some pom-poms for the finish because I did like how they did the pom-pom finish. I think it just kind of frames the piece nicely. And so I was able to find some pom-poms on Amazon. And so now the pom-poms have come. So now I don't have an excuse to not get it finished. So hopefully by the next time I share with you again, I will have the pom-poms finished and the pillow all put together. So being that one was finished, it was time to go on and find another stitch. And I've just loved when I opened my fall box. I loved that when I did that, there was pieces there to put out and that I could showcase my cross stitch with my fall decorations. Not that I'm a big decorator, but I just, I love just putting a few seasonal things out. I have a big dough bowl across my dining room table. I have a little, in that room over there, I have a little 2-tier tray, and I have another dough bowl on top of my entertainment center. So I like to have some small things that I put out in those spaces. And so having some smalls is always fun. I feel like there's always room for a small. There's not always room for a large piece like that one. So this is the next piece that I picked out. And this is the Autumn Alphabets, and that is a Scarlet House piece. I've liked this one ever since the first time I saw it. And I got a little start on this, and this is how far I am. I do stitch in a hoop. I usually use a Morgan hoop, but when I'm working on a small piece, I love these little spring tension. They just go like this, and I love these little hoops. I got this one for $1 at the thrift store. It's hard for me to turn down anything that I could use for $1. This is being stitched on 40 count Heartland from Picture This Plus, and this is just a scrap of fabric too. I don't actually know why I didn't stitch it on the other one, but I guess I just moved to this one, and that's perfectly fine. I was super lazy. I didn't even put my flosses on a ring. I just threw them into the bag and did it that way. This will be a quick stitch, so I'm not too worried about that I'm gonna lose a pack of floss or anything like that. So this is working for now, and I didn't even make a working copy. I put it in the bag, kind of like this. See if I can do that. So that I can see the key on this back side. I can see the key, and here I can see the stitching, and I just clip this into my clamp on my OttLite, and then I can just see it and stitch it. And that way this chart stays nice, and I can still see what I'm doing. It's kind of fun to do a small chart and be able to do it that way. So that's what I'm doing in the small department. And right now, I went on and am doing some more work on my Come to the Garden by Teresa Kogut. I really like this piece. If you've been following along with me, you know that I changed these words to the old hymn, I come to the garden, or the garden. So mine is going to say, I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. And I got that part stitched. That was a, I did iron this, but now it's got a fold in it. because I kind of half folded it, so hopefully you can still see this. So there's my stitching of that. My daughter recharted the words for me, and I have that as a free download, the recharted words, on my blog. And it turns out that that song was sung at my mom's funeral, my dad's funeral, and my niece's funeral. And so I'm putting all of their initials into the piece, and that's going to be like a memorial piece for them. I was very frustrated with this piece as I was working on it. I think I told you earlier that right down here in the corner, the designer just put in these 3 random stitches to make the border meet, and there's really no sense that it couldn't have been kind of reworked a little bit so it would have been more congruent. So this is where I'm at, but that mistake, it took me a long time to find. I ripped out a whole bunch of the border, and it just really got me frustrated. And I'm a person that stitches the border first, and to start out being frustrated was kind of hard for me. I think that it just kind of discouraged me and made me wonder, are there other mistakes in here I'm going to find later on? And it kind of made me nervous. So I've not been as zealously stitching this one. So this week I did the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I started the greenery in 5 of the boxes around the outside. And I'm hoping to just, my favorite part of the piece is the border. I just absolutely adore the border. See? It's just beautiful. And so I keep telling myself, if I get the border done, and I don't mind stitching borders. Some people don't like that, but I don't mind stitching borders, and I don't mind repeats. That doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I find comfort in repeats. So I'm totally fine to stitch the border, but I think if I get the border done, I'm gonna like get reignited and re-excited about the piece, and then it'll go a little bit quicker. But that's Come Into the Garden by Teresa Kogut, and this is where I was at. The colors are just amazing on this. I just love the colors. Teresa Kogut is a master of colors. She does such wonderful work. And this is being stitched on, let me look, I left the thing here. It says Picture This Plus Vellum, and that's again 40 count. Oh, you can hear my scanner going off. My husband was a first responder and fireman, and so I'm used to just hearing the scanner, and he passed away, and I just still listen to the scanner. I don't know why. So anyway, that's going off, and this I'm hoping to get back to. And again, I started going down here because I want to work my way up. The longer I've stitched, the more I think I'm a bottom up stitcher. I get asked oftentimes because many people who are coming back to cross stitch were cross stitchers back in the day. And people have said to me, well, what are you doing? Why are you stitching? Why are you starting in the upper right hand corner or upper left hand corner? Or why are you starting there? You're always supposed to start in the middle. I think that this is just a product of that times have changed. Back when we were stitching in the 80s, most of the things, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, most of the things that we had access to were kits. And a kit came with a pre-cut piece of fabric, and that in order to get the design to fit on that pre-cut piece of fabric, it was easiest to fold it in half and then fold it in half again and find that middle section. Well, nowadays we can buy linen of whatever size we want. I mean, this is a fat quarter of linen, and you can see that pretty much no matter what way I put this on my linen, as long as I started out with about a 2.5 inch margin, it's gonna fit on the linen. So I'm very happy with that I can start wherever I want, and I don't have to start in the middle. I really appreciate being able to do that. And now that we can buy linen in whatever size we want, we can start wherever we want, and that's awesome. And so that's why you don't have to start in the middle anymore. If you want to, you certainly can, but you don't have to start in the middle. And that's why I have found that I like doing the border first. I like stitching from the bottom up. And so that's what I was working on with stitching recently. And I'm super happy that that got some progress. We've had a very busy family life lately. not this week, but the week before, my newborn grandson, he was only 3 weeks old, he went to the hospital and was in Iowa City. And that's the major hospital around here. And he was there for 5 days with viral meningitis. And he is doing wonderfully. He's home and everything's happy. But I was on extra grandma duty then. And it just seems like I've been on grandma duty a lot lately. And that's totally okay. I don't mind being on grandma duty. But it just puts my stitching life and my blogging life and my quilting life all a little back further than I typically like them to be. I do have a couple of things. My daughter Kayla was at Michael's and she picked up a couple pieces from me. She sent me a picture and she goes, Mom, do you want this for a finish? And I will mount a finish on top of this part right here. And look at that pretty scroll work. Isn't that nice? I just loved it. She got it on sale, but it was originally $11.99. And then the next piece she got was this piece with the crows on top. I thought that would be awesome to finish a Blackbird design piece on. And with that, my daughter just walked into the door and she has a busy day ahead for me. I am being the model for her. She came out with some new cross stitch and sewing sweatshirts and apparel. I happen to be wearing one of them. You can see it says Stitch More, Worry Less. And we'll put a link to her shop in the notes below, and you can check out some of her stuff. But she's got some new designs, and she somehow thinks that I can be her model, which I find completely and totally hilarious because I am not model material. I don't wear any makeup at all. I don't do my nails. I don't do anything like that. So I do not feel like model material, but she seems to throw a sweatshirt or a t-shirt on me and tells me to smile, Mom, and so I do what my daughter says and smile. So you'll have to check out some of her merch, and it's kind of fun. I love wearing it, and it's comfy. And being on the model, I get everything at a reduced price. Isn't that cool? So anyway, now the dogs are running because they're all excited to see her too. So I will chat with you later. Thanks so much for joining me here at Joe's Country Junction. See you again. Bye. you.